And welcome back. Now, tonight we've got a special. We've got Michael Lamport. Now, he started a new portal for paranormal called veryparanormal.com. Very interesting. So, welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you very, very much for having me on, Al. It's an absolutely pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. So let's start, for people that don't know who you are, let's start with a little bit of your history. Where you kind of started with paranormal?
Oh, okay. About 6 or 7 years ago, I was in the business of sort of documentaries and did some travel channels producing and actually acting in them. And then we started a series called Rescue Mediums, which played in Canada on W and OWN and played in the States on We and Network, and then it went to 28 different countries around the world. And we did 7 seasons, that's 89 episodes, and it was basically around 2 psychic mediums who would go into homes and businesses that had complained about some difficult spirit activity, and they would show the spirit into the light. Or, in some cases, keep the spirit there because the spirit was quite happy. And so with the homeowners, they just sort of wanted identification and validation. So we did that, and then we did another series called Curious and Unusual Deaths for Discovery, which exactly was what it sounds. It was all about curious and unusual death. And then last year, we as a group, my business partners and I, we were thinking, the paranormal area is so fascinating and so necessary, and so it's an area that people around the world are interested in. And we thought there isn't one sort of place, one sort of portal or community where all things paranormal can be discussed, can be watched. So we started to think about that, and that's how veryparanormal.com came about, which is basically, like I say, a portal. I always describe it to people because the correct terminology for it is OTT, television, over the top. But that's sort of an industry insight term. So I just say to people like, imagine Netflix. Everybody knows how to get Netflix, whether they like it or not, but everybody knows how to do it. So we're delivered on the broadband the same way that Netflix is. And on Very Paranormal, there's shows, movies, paranormal investigation groups from around the world, tutorials, live events, blogs, and forums. And what we want with it is it really to become a community. We don't want to preach. We want to explore the unexplained with our subscribers. So that's basically it in a nutshell about it. And we take it very seriously. We do have some comedy on it because just because somebody's into paranormal doesn't mean they don't have a sense of humor. Right. But we obviously take it very seriously. I mean, I do. I live in Toronto, and eerily or oddly enough, I believe I do have a spirit in my house that I get along with. I hope I get along with. But that's basically it. Al. That's the genesis of the project.
Where do you see it going?
Well, we hope that it's going to increase greatly, and the ability to create new original content is our primary goal. On it, one of our flagship series is Rescue Mediums, and we have a couple of million fans of that program worldwide, and we hope to be able to do more episodes of Rescue Mediums. We hope to be able to reach out to more paranormal investigative groups, and we hope to reach out to some other producers of this sort of content and get them up on veryparanormal.com. That's what we want. In the future, we just really want to build it so it really does become a real focal point for the paranormal community. And not just paranormal. We're, investigating, not investigating, we're getting stuff about UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, lots of different anomalies, crop circles, of things. But we want it to be like the place that has original and curated programming, but all about the paranormal and the unexplained. That's where we hopefully see it going.
Right. So now, are you going to start refilming the rescue mediums now?
Yes, we hope so. I mean, we need a bigger subscription base because, sadly, a lot of stuff is about money.
Yeah.
Oh God, I wish the world wasn't like that.
Yeah.
So we have to get budgets together so that we can film more episodes, and that is definitely our intention. That's we really want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen the show. It's pretty good. It's good entertainment. I really like the show. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, the ladies are sort of funny. They're two English ladies, and they're sort of quirky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. But it comes across. It's very real. It's got a good feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what influences do you have?
Oh boy, I was never you mean in the paranormal?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, I was never, ever a non-believer. My mother was a big believer. My father was not. But certain things came to light, especially when I was filming Rescue Mediums, that have really turned me around the corner. I mean, on sets, when we've been shooting stuff, and it is all real. There's no scripting or anything. I remember sitting watching... I think we were on a place called Wolf Island, which is an island off the shore of Kingston in Ontario, and it's this big mansion. And I remember sitting in the kitchen looking at a monitor of what we were filming, because you've got to check it, to make sure everything's okay. And there was nobody else in the room with me, and I felt 3 distinct tugs of my hair. And I turned around thinking it was one of my production assistants, and to my to my fear, there was nobody behind me, and I know it wasn't just a tick. It was 3 distinct tugs, and so that made me think, okay, there is more, more things in heaven and earth than are dreamed of in your philosophy, Horatio, as Shakespeare so well wrote, and many other experiences like that. So I believe very much in different vibrations. We as living people are on one vibration, and I do believe that spirit is another vibration that sometimes we can connect with or feel. It's like when I think probably everybody, I would imagine all your listeners, we've all felt that thing that, is there somebody in the room with me, or what's that? And you turn around and there seems to be nothing there, but was there something there? And I think that's the time when our vibrations from this plane reach into the other plane, and if they could only talk to us, or if we could only talk to them, and I think that's what we have the benefit of mediums and psychics, to be the translators in those 2 languages. So, where I come from, it is I am a believer. And the good thing about being a believer, I believe, is that I'm not scared anymore of things that go bump in the night. I used to be one of those guys, after you watch a really good horror flick, I wouldn't go down into the basement to go to the bathroom because it was dark, and I'd be like, ooh. Now it doesn't bother me. I can brave the dark. So that's a benefit of being a believer.
Yeah, yeah. Is there shows out there that you really like? I mean, do you think that the paranormal's represented in a pretty good way right now?
I gotta say, I think, I know this is going to sound so, I don't know, so middle of the road. I really believe it's a 50-50. I think some shows are really good, honest, and fascinating, and I think some are just sort of fluff and do things sometimes just for effect, and also, I mean, being a producer, I do understand why people do that, because they say, okay, look, you're going around this house, if you make this extra scary, it's going to get better ratings. But then don't say it's a real thing, say it's like The Exorcist, that it's a movie. Don't purport to be real if what you're doing is manipulating the truth, because I don't think, I think viewers see through that, and I also think I think it annoys spirit. They're like, come on, don't do this. So I do think there are some good ones, and I think there are some sort of bad ones. I mean, paranormal for entertainment, as in a lot of movies, I think that's great. Paranormal activity and all that sort of stuff. I mean, people love it. But it's entertainment. It's scripted, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I don't like shows that purport to be real and valid, that have a scare factor put into them just for the sake of scaring. I don't like that.
Right. Now, you mentioned the UFOs and that. Is there a reason, do you think, that people, they're not quite as open about it? Like, when you talk about paranormal nowadays, a lot of people will say, oh, they're a medium, or they go to one, or they watch these shows, and they're involved. And it seems to be a little bit more, it's quite a bit more accepted. But the UFOs are still kind of almost hidden, and people don't, let's say, come out as much about it.
I think that's very true. I have thought about that, and the one reason I can think about it, the one reason I do think about it, is throughout history, people have said, oh my goodness, was that a UFO? We've heard about the aliens in the States and all this sort of stuff, but I think it's still on the cusp of being, if you saw a flying saucer, you're a bit weird. Or if you were abducted, you're on that sort of fringe of lunacy. Whereas, as you say, the paranormal aspect is becoming much more prevalent and acceptable. And I'm wondering if it's just a passage of more time when, when people will sort of be even more open about UFO experiences. Or, what would be great would be, somebody to come visit us and say, okay, yes, we're here. Yeah. That would be nice.
Do you think there's a tie between the two? I know lately I've heard rumors that, people think that the spirits and ghosts and all that are related to the, people from another planet or something, another universe, aliens.
Yeah, I have heard that. And there's no way I think either one of us can dispute, whether that's true or not. And I don't know about it. I do believe, I believe that when we pass, I do believe a spirit turns into another energy. I'm not really hot on, you're going to go to hell, you're going to go to heaven, or you're going to go to purgatory, or I mean, when I die, I'd like to go to the pub around the corner and hang out there. But I have heard that, and I don't know, because it could be possible. I think, because if I do believe that there are different vibrations and different dimensions, that other people in the universe, perhaps they can just simply access that other dimension and that other vibration better than we have been able to on Earth. Maybe that's it, but I have heard the same thing, and my jury is out on whether there's a direct connection.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever really know in our lifetime, sort of. It's one of those tough ones, So you're going to cover Bigfoot as well, or creatures, and things like that.
Yep.
And
yep.
That's pretty cool. What do you think about things like that? Do you have a thought about those?
Yeah, I do. I've been watching several documentaries about the Bigfoot and Sasquatch, primarily on the western U.S. seaboard, like around Portland, and that, and I find it fascinating. And I did watch one documentary that made me very intrigued. I can't remember the name of it now, though, sadly, about the dimensional aspect, because people always say, oh, look, okay, so you've seen Bigfoot or Sasquatch or whatever out of the corner of your eye. Why can't we see her or him like all the time when I walk through the forest? And I do believe that this person said that they believe that the Sasquatch also works on a different vibration and just sometimes comes out of that vibration and we see it. That would make sense to me. I haven't looked into it enough. I don't know what the origin. Now you're asking this question. After we do the interview, I'm actually going to go and start to look up the origin, because it fascinates me, because there are so many, not just Bigfoot and Sasquatch. There, I think of things like the Loch Ness Monster, and it seems to me that most lakes in Canada and the U.S. and probably around the world, say like, oh well, there is the monster of this lake, or we've seen the monster in this lake, and to me it's fascinating, because I just think, I don't know, I don't believe everybody could be making stuff up. I just can't believe that to be so. It fascinates me, that aspect of it.
Yeah, there's quite a tie to it. I mean, it's pretty unusual that so many lakes and so many areas talk about a sea monster, and then same as the Bigfoot and dog man, or whatever they call it. Werewolf, and it's pretty unusual, isn't it, that it happens all over the place.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've heard about the dog man and everything like that. It is interesting, and it does make you wonder sometimes. Is that the mind playing tricks? And of course, the true cynic would say, I believe a true cynic would probably say, well, yeah, you're seeing what you want to see in that.
Right.
And then I think, well, if you're seeing what you want to see, and you see it, I don't know that that's bad either. I don't necessarily think if you see something that you believe, and it's not hurting you, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. But
right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's all we can do is think our way through these things, and try to figure it out. Was there a certain episode that in your life that made you want to create shows like Rescue Mediums?
Yeah, I don't think there was a certain exact episode, but what made me want to start Rescue Mediums is slightly odd, in that I live in an area of Toronto in Ontario called Riverdale, and I have a house there, and a woman from Vancouver actually had contacted me because she was doing her family tree and her family history, and the address of my house came up, and she asked me if I had any historical documents, and I'd only moved in there about 2 weeks, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't, but I jokingly say, I said, well, I want to prove to you that all people that live in Toronto are not idiots and mean and horrible, so I'll go to the archives and see if I can get some information. So I did, and I sent it to her. And 2 weeks later, I got a very nice call back from her, and she said, thank you so much. And she said that she'd Googled me, which, as we all know, is a terrifying thing these days. And she said, I noticed that you're an actor and a producer. And I said, yeah. And she said, I have a cousin who lives in England who is trying to do a show about psychic stuff, and she doesn't like many of the producers that she's met in the UK. You should give her a call. And of course, when you say to somebody you're a producer, a lot of people approach you all the time and say, by the way, I've got a great idea. That's great. So I wrote down this person in England's number and just went, yeah, thank you, yeah. And I thought nothing of it, because I was like, yeah, sure. But 2 weeks later, I felt, it's another psychic experience, I think, now I'm talking about it, I felt compelled to call that number. And the person who answered was Jackie Dennison, who is the lead psychic on Rescue Mediums. And she explained to me, what she was thinking of. And I told her where I lived. And then she told me that her great-uncle had built my house with his bare hands. So I started to freak a little bit inside. I was like, okay, this is a pretty big coincidence. And then, of course, she said, oh, and by the way, he died in 1940-something. And she said, oh, and by the way, he's still there. And then I went, okay. But it does explain some of the bumps that I have heard in the night. His name is Oliver, and I do speak to him. He doesn't speak back, but I do speak to him frequently just to say, hi, Oliver, just to keep everything calm. And that's how we met. And so I found that really, it was one of those things that obviously, when you look back on it in retrospect, we were supposed to meet. Because, how often do you phone somebody on the other side of the Atlantic and they say to you, my great-great-uncle built your house? I don't think that happens too often.
Oh, no.
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 At least I hope it doesn't.
Well, no, I don't think so. That's pretty, it's pretty unusual, yeah.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, that's crazy. And so that was pretty good. Now, you also worked with Robbie Thomas.
Yes, absolutely. And we're hoping to we are in the process of developing a show, Psychic Profiler, with Robbie, because as you know well, and I think your listeners do too, Robbie's a great psychic, and he works extensively with police departments in Canada and the USA on cold case files. And what I find fascinating is, first of all, for the listeners that have never seen him, Robbie is one of the least-looking psychic mediums that you come across, and I joke with him about this a lot. He's bald, he's tough, he's got tattoos. He looks like the sort of person that on a dark night you'd walk across on the other side of the street. But he's the sweetest guy on the planet Earth. And he works with these police forces. And what I find fascinating is the cops, both in the States and Canada, are coming more and more around to using psychics like him. Because even though it's not admissible in court, what some cops have told me, if the information that a psychic gives them and they follow up on it, they're using it as another tool on their investigations. And I think that's fascinating because, if I were a cop, I could do the CSI stuff and all that. But, if a psychic tells me something that I didn't know before, it might be interesting to follow up. And you follow it up and it leads you to something else. It's fascinating. So I'm really intrigued and encouraged that the cops are now, not looking at the art of mediumship and psychic ability as just some sort of a bunch of quacks. They're actually looking at it as something that's serious, which indeed it is. So, yeah, and as I say, I really hope when we get going that we're going to be doing something with Robbie. I'm actually probably going to be seeing Robbie next week. We're going to get together for a pre-holiday beverage, as they say. So I'm probably going to see him next week.
Yeah, cocktail time.
Or a pre-holiday spirit.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we need. And I've talked to him a few times. He seems quite quite interesting. And so, do you think that that'll be a direction that psychics go into in the future?
It will be a what?
A direction, A
direction?
Yeah.
I think so. With the psychics and the mediums that I personally know and who are contributing to veryparanormal.com, a lot of them are already in that sort of area. And, I'm not psychic myself, I don't think, or I haven't honed those skills. I'd love to be able to. But I know a lot of psychics that are sort of, they will get an image or a feeling. And I know that they've contacted law enforcement and or the families because I think obviously one of the main things if after a tragedy happens and Robbie singularly deals with murders, abductions, things like that. But after a terrible tragedy like that in a family, closure and just being heard is so important. And I think that's what I know that's what Robbie brings to everything he does and who he works with. He is very, very family focused and dedicated, and I think that's really critical to help families get through these horrible events, and then maybe get to the bottom with the help of law enforcement of exactly what happened and find justice somehow. I think that's a very significant thing.
Boy, have you ever been on any investigations yourself?
Yes. The one that we did for our trailer for Psychic Profiler, Robbie and I went down to Kentucky on a case. We got a local camera crew and everything, and down there, I think it was for a week, and we went to the sheriff's office in the town. I think the town was called Paintsville, and this poor girl the autopsy report indicated that she had drowned. Robbie psychically did not believe that was the case, and many of her family and friends didn't think it was the case either. And so we got experts, medical experts, that said that bruises on the deceased's body could not have occurred after her death, where people said that she was bruised when she was dragged out of the water, and he said that wouldn't happen because the blood stopped. And we spoke to the sheriff's department, and they sort of looked at it as a closed case. Our objective is to finish that and get the U.S. Marshal's Office to reopen the case. But an interesting thing that happened in Kentucky, and I didn't know this except that I saw it on ABC News about 3 weeks later, is literally 3 weeks after we left Kentucky, the sheriff of the area that we had interviewed and asked about what he thinks happened and how the investigation was, he left, like literally left town. I know this sounds like some sort of made-up story, but it's on the ABC News feed. He left town, and he took with him a whole bunch of documents from his files about different murders and unsolved cases. So, I mean, you know, you can put two and two together. You can go to the conspiracy world and think, well, he had something to do with it. Or you can just think, okay, well, he just wanted to get out of town. But I still to this day think that was a sort of strange coincidence. And being on the investigation side of it, it's eerie. It sounds weird, but you always feel like you're watching your back. Because if you're looking at an unsolved case and you think that whomever did this is still there, and they know that you're down there to, you know, take photographs and film, you just think, oh, I don't know. I did find myself constantly looking over my shoulder. So it was an odd experience, but it's not one that I would not do again, because I think it's very valuable for the families.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of conspiracy, do you think you'll be planning on getting into conspiracies and alternative histories and stuff?
Well, that's so interesting that you're saying that, because just today we were talking about that. I think there is a place for it. I think it's interesting, but I think on veryparanormal.com it would just be its own area, because as I say, we want to make sure that the paranormal community are front and center, and that it's a very serious and honest endeavor. But the conspiracy theories are very fascinating, and I think they're very fascinating to people that are very much into paranormal and unexplained. I mean, I started to look at some today, and they can certainly they certainly can reel you in. I mean, I saw something today that came out that they were suggesting that Stanley Kubrick was a director behind what everybody says was the fake moon landing. Interesting theory. I mean, I don't know how you would prove it wrong, right, I mean, but conspiracy theories are interesting.
Yeah.
My own view about conspiracy theories, though, I must say, if I have a hard time keeping a secret myself about anything, because eventually I'll blurt it out to somebody. And I was thinking that if there's a group of, 10,000 people in NASA, and everybody kept a secret, I don't think so.
No, yeah.
I just think it's too impossible to keep that secret. Like I say, I mean, I can keep a secret probably for about 8.5 hours, and then I'm done.
Well, it's been a good hour.
Well, thank you. We've covered quite a gambit. We've come from talking about veryparanormal.com to spirits and conspiracy theories.
Same. It's all the same. No, it's good. It's just good to have a good conversation, because the conversation's what people like.
Yes,
they like to hear some
agree.
real.
Thank you so much for letting me yak with you and be on the air with you. I'm very, very appreciative. Very, very much.
No, anything I can do to help. I'm Well, it was nice
Okay.
talking to you, and let me know if there's anything I can do.
I will. I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Al.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.